Vikings, the first Americans. Did you know that Vikings set foot in North America 500 years before Columbus? In fact, evidence suggests they established a settlement in Canada long before Europeans even knew the continent existed. But how far did they go? And could they have played a larger role in American history than we ever imagined? When we think of the first Europeans to reach America, the name Christopher Columbus often comes to mind, but history tells us a different story. Long before Columbus sailed across the Atlantic, Norse explorers from Scandinavia had already landed on North American shores. Led by legendary figures like Leif Erikson, these Viking adventurers braved the unknown, reaching what is now Newfoundland, Canada, in the year 1000 AD. But here's the real question. Were they just visitors, or were they the first Europeans to truly set foot in the New World? And if they were, why don't we hear more about their journey? Today, we're diving deep into the Viking voyages to North America, the evidence that proves their presence, and whether they could rightfully be called the first Americans. For centuries, the idea that Vikings reached North America was dismissed as myth. The Norse sagas, oral histories passed down by Viking storytellers, spoke of a land called Vinland, a fertile place filled with wild grapes, forests, and rich resources. But without physical evidence, many historians believe these stories were just legends. It wasn't until the 1960s that solid proof emerged. Archaeologists in Newfoundland, Canada, discovered an unmistakable Viking settlement, complete with Norse-style buildings, tools, and even ironworking, something Native Americans were not known to have practiced at the time. But the discovery of the Viking settlement raises more questions than it answers. How long did the Vikings stay? Did they explore further into North America? And most intriguingly, did they interact with the indigenous peoples already living there? Some researchers believe the Vikings may have traveled as far south as New England or even beyond, which, if true, could reshape everything we know about early exploration in America. So what evidence do we have that Vikings explored beyond Canada? First, let's start with the Viking settlement. Excavated by archaeologists Helge and Anne Stein-Ingstead in the 1960s, this site is the only confirmed Viking settlement in North America. Radiocarbon dating places the Norse presence here around 1000 AD, meaning the Vikings were in America 500 years before Columbus. Artifacts found at the site include Viking iron nails, suggesting ship repair or construction. Spindle whorls, proving Norse women may have been part of the settlement. A bronze cloak pin, an item common in Viking settlements across Greenland and Iceland. But the Viking settlement is just one piece of the puzzle. Other clues hint that Vikings traveled much farther. One intriguing find is the Maine penny, a Norse coin discovered in a Native American site in Maine. While some debate its authenticity, it suggests trade or contact between Vikings and indigenous peoples. Then there's the discovery of butternuts at the Viking settlement. Butternut trees don't grow that far north, meaning the Vikings must have traveled south to collect them, perhaps as far as modern-day New York or even beyond. And the Norse sagas themselves offer even more clues. According to these ancient texts, Leif Erikson first landed in a place he called Helluland, likely Baffin Island. Then he sailed to Markland, believed to be Labrador. Finally, he reached Vinland, a warmer, more fertile land that some believe extended into the northeastern U.S. If these accounts are accurate, it means the Vikings did not just land in North America. They explored it. One of the most compelling aspects of this story is the possible interactions between the Vikings and Native Americans. The Norse sagas describe encounters with Skraelings, their term for indigenous peoples. Some of these meetings were peaceful, suggesting trade, but others ended in violence. The sagas tell of conflicts where Viking settlers were driven out by hostile Skraelings, forcing them to abandon Vinland and retreat to Greenland. This raises a fascinating question. Could the Vikings have stayed longer if these relationships had been different? Historians believe the Vikings were outnumbered and unprepared for long-term survival in North America. Unlike the later European settlers, the Vikings had no large-scale colonization efforts. Their settlements were small, and they lacked the numbers to establish a strong foothold. By the 11th century, the Norse presence in America faded, leaving behind only scattered traces of their existence and a mystery that still fascinates us today. So, were the Vikings the first Americans? While they were certainly the first Europeans to reach the continent, they didn't stay long enough to establish a lasting presence. Their explorations, however, proved that the New World was not as isolated as once believed. The Vikings' voyages challenged the traditional narrative that Columbus discovered America. In reality, North America was visited centuries earlier, and perhaps in ways we have yet to fully uncover. But the real question remains, what else is waiting to be unearthed? Could there be more Viking settlements still hidden beneath the North American soil? And if so, how would that change what we think we know about history? What do you think? Were the Vikings just visitors, or were they the true first Europeans in America? Let us know your theories in the comments. And if you love uncovering history's hidden secrets, check out our next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us as we explore the mysteries of the past. Thanks for watching.